It looks like we're live. Gonna wait a few more seconds for all platforms to catch up. And welcome everyone to another episode of Daily Freedom. I'm your host, Fernando Lopes. And today I have the pleasure and honor of interviewing Laura Chattington, who enables professionals to advance their career with 3 simple steps. And today we're going to be talking about taking every opportunity in your career and how to love every minute of your work life by using Laura's 3 steps to fast tracking your career. Laura, welcome. How are you?
Hi there. Really, really good. Thank you. Thank you for having me on your podcast, Fernando.
You're welcome. As we were just chatting, I just had an episode here broadcasting from my home where the stove started the spark, the electrical spark went on by itself, and I had to tend to that, and my heart's still beating a little fast because of that.
Yeah.
I had to pull the stove from the wall and unplug the electrical cord. And you were telling me a story that you had when you were a kid. Can you retell that story, please?
Yeah. So as you were rushing out from our conversation before this podcast to the kitchen, and I could actually hear the gas go click, 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 click. And I was thinking, is there going to be a massive bang and like everything's going to go up in smoke? And it reminded me when I was a kid, and I must have been, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9. And my mother was telling me to go and have a bath. And I was in the middle of watching something on TV and she kept going, get in the bath, get in the bath. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to get in the bath. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to watch the program that I was watching at the same time in the bath. And you've got to remember that back then we didn't have reruns. We couldn't click and pause, and we just had to watch the TV when it broadcasts. So I decided, and it didn't occur to me why there weren't any plug sockets in the bathroom at the time. So I ran one of those extension cables from outside the bathroom into the bathroom, plugged the TV, sat the TV on a chair, which was kind of right next to the bathtub, got in the bathtub and was sort of merrily watching the TV program, whatever I was watching. And sort of 5 minutes later, my mum comes rushing in going, what are you doing? What are you doing? Grabs the TV and sort of legs it out of the bathroom. And I'm kind of like, what are you doing? I was just watching TV. And that was the day that she explained to me what happens when you mix electricity and water together, which it can be very dangerous for your health. Hence me being a little bit worried about your gas clicking away with your boiling water.
Yes. I can imagine. I was imagining you being a kid, and I was making my imagination into a cartoon, like like a Tom and Jerry type of cartoon.
Yes.
Where mom is furious, there's steam coming out of her head.
Yeah, there was it. And if anyone who's watching that, if you have children and you might be the calmest person in the world, but as soon as your children are in danger in any way, you sort of hit that panic mode and you start sort of, get out of my way, I've got to save my kid before they do something really dangerous. So
yeah,
I was probably the naughty Jerry in the bath in your cartoon. That was a part of my childhood.
I love that. I love how you were just committed to getting obeying your mother while also being true to what you wanted, which was finish watching the TV show.
Yeah. Find solutions, right?
And I'm looking for ways how to in transitioning to then, which I have tons, it's coming up in my head right now as I speak, to then transition of why you got into the business of coaching people and fast tracking their career.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's a bit of a story, because when I think back, I actually started out my career in the tech industry. And without revealing my age too much on this podcast, I've already said when I was a kid, there was only 4 channels and you couldn't change the broadcast. And actually, when I started out my career in the tech industry, it was actually way back before even Google existed. So it was quite a long time back. And there were kind of 2 things that really stood me apart from other people back then, because I was a programmer working in software development, right? I was a computer science graduate. And the thing that made me different back then, there were 2 sort of key things. Number one was that I was female, and there literally were no females back then. And number 2 is that I could communicate with human beings. And again, that was really quite rare back then, and potentially rare now as well, although I wouldn't want to criticize anyone in the tech industry. But I sort of, because of those 2, well, because I could communicate to humans as well as I could understand computing, I was sort of put into positions of management very early on in my career. My career sort of progressed pretty rapidly, and I was managing people, I was managing projects, I was directing projects, and I really didn't have any idea what I was doing. I understood the business and I understood the tech, but that's all I understood. And when I think back and sort of those decision points that you have, when you get to a point in life and you're like, that was a real pivot point for me, was on a specific project which I'd been working on for over a year with a client very closely, and cutting a sort of long year short. That project was delivered, and it was delivered incredibly successfully in the business. We'd all sort of like blood, sweat, and tears delivered this project in the business. And it was so successful that the senior partners in the firm who was the client had wanted to come down and, meet me, meet the team, hear what we were doing, and sort of talk about what the next steps were. And I remember my client ringing me up and saying, hey, it's great, the senior partners are coming down and we've got a meeting, it's going to be great for your career, it's going to be great for mine. And I sort of remember putting the phone down and thinking, the idea of presenting and communicating to anyone at that point in my career filled me with horror. I mean, literally, the idea, I probably sort of, in that sort of Tom and Jerry style, went blood drained. Blood drained for me, and it drained for me all week. And I sort of spent 7 days before that meeting just feeling awful, stressed, not sleeping, wondering what to do. And I sort of, to this day, I remember walking into that meeting, and I remember walking up to the front of the meeting room, and I remember looking straight at those senior partners, and in sort of 15 minutes of rubbish, drivel, not knowing what to say or how to say it, I kind of completely destroyed all the credibility that we'd worked so hard for in that project. And I was embarrassed. Everyone was, it was a kind of difficult, awkward situation. And it was really, again, it was that sort of decision point where I sort of realized that actually, no matter how hard you work in your career, once you get to a certain level, you need to be able to communicate, and you need to be able to influence other people. And it was really at that point that I decided, through the pain of having that experience, that I would never, ever put myself in that position again. And I sort of spent the last 15, 20 years mastering how to communicate and influence and really progress in your career by building relationships. And I guess along the way, that has, I have found that when I'm working with people, when I'm coaching people, that most people that I work with, and this is what I love about what I do, most people that I work with that are incredibly competent at what they are doing, but they need the kind of strategies to communicate, to influence, and to really progress their career. So I've sort of come along the path in my own experience, but realized that I can really add some sort of catalyst to people's career by working with them on their career, as well as them working in their career. And hence, that's kind of where I ended up doing what I do now.
Wow. That presentation must have hurt.
Yeah.
Those 15 minutes.
It must have been, I off the top of my head, it was over 15 years ago, right? And even now, I'm like, I could, in my tummy, I'm just like, oh, it was awful. It was embarrassing. And it's one of those, as I said, it's one of those points in life where you're kind of like, hold on a minute. And also because I was good at my job. I could communicate to people. I was smart enough to sort of work out what the business requirements were, but actually being put under pressure, being in a very high pressured meeting and there's something different about having to stand up in front of people as opposed to even just sitting down at the table with them. There's something different about having to stand up and speak to people. And I have to confess, that time I really wish the floor had sort of swallowed me up and took me away from it, or the gas had blown up or something, but it didn't. And it wasn't a good experience, but obviously great things have come out of it.
And so to give the people listening, watching, a sense of what to expect in the next few minutes in this conversation is, what could you share next about your way or method or framework that you coach people through?
So when I work with people, I take them, as you mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, I take them through 3 steps. And everyone coming in, I work with professionals who are sort of 35 and over, who feel like their career is plateauing. They've got so far in their career and their career is plateauing. And so they are coming into my world sort of going, where am I going? What is my next move? I see other people going past me in my career, in my company. What am I not doing? So I will then work with them depending on what their industry is, and we will sort of go through 3 steps. And the first step, and it comes back to my story, the first step is decide. Really, really decide. We have these kind of, it'd be good if I could, it would be nice if the first step is decide, why, how, what, who do you have to be, and really embed that in sort of your decision so that you really are going to go for it. And when I'm speaking to potential clients of whether we're going to work together, I'm really looking for, are they really ready to go? Because it's like rocket fuel, this stuff, right? So number 1 is decide. Number 2 is communicate. So skills to be able to communicate and influence in your working environment. And number 3 is, step 3 is activate. So how do you activate your career? What is the plan? What is the strategy? How do you go out the door once you've got these things and implement in your working environment? So they're the 3 steps.
I love that. It seems like something that with guidance can be, even though those steps can be a very high level, like not much, say, not in the trenches, not, say specific things, but with guidance, those high level steps can then have their own sub steps or or systems to once the decision is made, to keep the decision in existence, keep the decision alive, their
Yeah.
purpose, their why.
And also, it's interesting. And again, I what I love about it is that these people are, that they're very, very, most of the time they have experience, they're competent, they, it's just like they need they need a nudge, a push. And part of that decision process is not just like, I'm deciding that I'm going to go up in my career, whatever that means to that person. But it's things like really thinking about, who do I need to be? And that sort of recognition that you get to a point in your life. And yeah, you have goals that you want to reach. I want to get promoted, or I want, this relationship, or whatever it is. But actually thinking through, what I do with my clients is think through, who do they need to be? So what are the traits, what are the behaviors, what is part of their personalities that they have to work on as well as doing their job? And kind of what are the systems that they need to put in place in their own lives to be able to reach those outcomes, those goals, whatever that is to them. And by sort of packaging all of that together and working with me, with my company, to really work through that, you really get to a decision that is, you not only decide, but you also, you get excited, you get enthusiastic, you get very driven, because you realize that actually there are tools and strategies that I need to add to my working profile, to my personality, that is really going to get me the shift that I'm looking for, and accelerate your career, whatever way that is.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing there in your words is like the word identity, like an identity shift.
Yeah.
That starts with the step one, which is deciding, which then with that new identity shift, then the step two, communicate, and then step three, activate.
Yeah. And I think with the communicate piece, again, with professionals who are at this point in their career, we can all communicate that, we can have a conversation. But it's, excuse me, it's communicating with confidence. And I always talk about confidence, internal confidence. So what are you thinking? How are you, what's going on inside? Because that is what you communicate outside. And how do you get confidence in those high pressured situations where you need confidence? So we can be confident when we're sitting around with our friends in a coffee shop having a coffee and we talk relaxed and we're confident, but how do we take that confidence into those important interactions that are sort of pivot points in our career, those important high pressured interactions that we have? So it's about being able to, I talk about building a confidence muscle that you can sort of flex when you need it in the situations that you need that. And then thinking about what is, how do I project authority? How do I project and communicate authority? And how do I build that into my posture, into my mindset? And then finally, the sort of third piece to the communicate bit is, how do I walk and talk my pitch, my personal pitch? And you'll find, and when you meet lots of people, when they're very competent at talking about their work, but actually being able to walk and talk your own personal pitch is really key to putting yourself forward and fast tracking your career, and doing it in a way that is very tactful, and you're not sort of walking around going, I'm amazing. You're taking your opportunities and putting yourself forward, and that kind of combination is the sort of secret combination of things that really gives people that acceleration in how they interact in their working environment.
I love that. Wow. Projecting authority, first, the confidence muscle. I love that analogy, that metaphor, which I believe will then become real inside.
Yeah.
Then the projecting authority, and then actually be how to embody the walking, talking of the personal pitch. And
Mm,
I don't think I've ever heard uh, that the term personal pitch being spoken in the context of an employee
mm,
who wants to. It's usually for either salespeople or
yeah.
entrepreneurs who are pitching, or people raising money. But it's really cool that also employees can have a personal pitch.
Mm. And actually, I find, again, when I work with people, and they'll be, it might be that they come in and they haven't got through interviews, or they haven't got promoted, or they've done they want to get up into the next stage in their career. And when you talk to these professionals, I'm always like, you're amazing. You've got so much experience. You've got so how do you articulate that experience in a way that is impactful and influential to the people that you're talking about? And actually, it's kind of going through that personal pitch process, is how, you've got all this experience, you've got all this knowledge. How do you position it? How do you talk about yourself in a way that is influential and attractive and benefit driven to the people that you're talking to? So, as you say, pitches are normally like a sales thing, and it's sometimes like, oh, I don't want to be, selling myself. But actually, if you don't put yourself forward, you just don't get noticed. You don't get the opportunities. So it's about getting comfortable and confident in how to position what you can do and what makes you different and what makes you unique and what value you bring to the table in a way that other people are like, oh, that sounds interesting. Tell me more. I really want to know about that project, or I really want to know about that job, or I really want to know about that view. Where does that come from? So it's not like I'm trying to sell myself, like sleazily sell myself all the time. It's about being able to really put yourself forward and pitch yourself when you get the opportunities to do that. And I think it's really important to have in your pocket, because once you've got it in your pocket, right, you got it. And you can adapt it and change it and add to it. But you start going, yeah, that, I see where I haven't taken my opportunities. I see where I've missed out on those conversations, or I didn't turn up to that event and make the connections that I needed to, whatever it is. So it's a really, really good process to go through.
I love that. I love that a lot. I want to do a time check with you, Laura, because we're meant to end by now, and because of my incident with the sparkle here. How are you doing on time?
So I'm fine, because it is 10:30 in the evening here. So I'm happy to continue. I know that we started a little late, so that's absolutely fine. I don't have any more meetings later on this evening.
Okay, this is the last 10 p.m. meeting of your night.
You're my last call today.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. I'll make sure that we'll go just as long as we need, so that folks get. And I think so far we've got a good exploration of who you are, why you do what you do. And I know that on Friday this week, you're going to be offering a live example of what it is you do. Could you talk a little bit about that?
So on Friday, I'm actually going to demonstrate the personal pitch process, actually. So good timing on that question. So I'm going to take somebody who is going to be joining the meeting with us, and I'm going to walk through that pitch process of how do you put that pitch together, and how do you position what you do, and how you do it in a way that you can walk and talk about yourself. So we're going to be going through that process. And I've actually asked one of my clients to come on and go through that process live, so that they can, you can see how the pitch evolves based on the process that we go through. So that should be a really good insight into that specific point in these 3 steps.
I love that. I love that a lot. Personal pitch process, PPP.
PPP.
This is great. This is fascinating. And given that you and I have, and a few other experts have been meeting for the last few weeks, every Friday, to mastermind and brainstorm on ways that we can serve the tech industry.
Yeah.
And having, say, at first it was life coaching. It was to ways to bring life coaching to the tech industry, with the hopes that not only that every person in the organizations have access to coaching, not only executives or the owners, but also people that are not in the leadership team. And what would happen. And then later we decided that the word wellness might be more fitting, and how to bring wellness to tech companies as a health benefit. So you and I and a few other experts that have different ways of bringing coaching or wellness to people have been meeting. And so this Friday, you're going to take the lead there and show us and teach us an example of what it is to work with you and bring wellness in a sense of internal confidence, projecting authority, and having a pitch that allows a person's career to be elevated and get to the next level, so they feel good. And my reason for doing this, in case folks I haven't told folks in this call or this podcast yet, is children. I believe that if the workers of a company have a healthy relationship to their own wellness, as how they relate to their career, how much stress they're going through, whether that stress is good or not good, it will show, or it will transmit to their children. Who, I mean, I've had parents, my parents, I remember when I was a kid, when they try to hide their emotions from me, I guess in hopes that they, protect the child from the parents' stresses. And it was impossible. I could feel. So my why is so that children can have better problems than the parents. Not the same problems.
I chuckle nervously there with 2 children of my own, and totally relate to exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, very cool. So there'll be a link somewhere below for folks that want to watch it live, or maybe even for some VIP seating in the Zoom room where they'll just be able to ask questions afterwards. Okay, we can include those.
And I think, just to add to what you were saying about the sort of experts and sort of, we come at that, we come to that group with 2 completely different perspectives and offerings. And I think what I really, just a couple of things that I really like about what it is we're doing together is, I love the idea that it's seen as a health benefit. All of what we offer is a health benefit in the tech industry, and the concept of that is what really brought me into the idea to commit to the project. And I think the other thing, having sort of got to know everyone and work with people, all of us together, I think one of the strengths of the proposition of the group is there's so much diversity. There's so much diversity in what we offer together as a group. So no matter where you're coming from, whether you're a parent with kids, working hard and getting stressed out at work, whether you're an individual or a parent going into a company and having to communicate better, wanting to sort of fast your career or lots of other things that we have that kind of combination of expertise. And I think that's really unique about what we're doing. And you know, that I love the idea that by getting on that call every week or watching the reruns or whatever, you're getting sort of snapshots of the sort of value that this combination of offers and services really brings. And I think that is really, really unique in what we're doing. So really, really pleased to be a part of it.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's you bring a lot of value, and I'm happy that and you know, one of the things that I've heard, some of the things that you've shared that actually caused me to be more inspired the most, besides telling me of how you've helped past clients get amazing raises and change positions. It was also I think the relationship you have with your kids.
Okay.
That has been like amazing to me, because I feel that you're living what you're preaching. And I you know, and I mentioned this to you maybe once or twice in passing, that, you know, I'm looking forward to you having you know, teaching about, you know, parenting to people that have similar pasts as you.
Yeah. Well, I actually, and it's funny, you know, it's obvious that we would end up in this conversation, but actually, when I think back and you know, thinking back to my career, I don't think when I started my career, I was particularly somebody who ever thought I would have children. And whatever life happened, and I do have 2 children, and I didn't have them really young, but I had them quite young in the way that society has ended up in sort of careers and things like that. So and just again, the way that life has twisted and turned for me, I have been a single parent for the last 10 years. So my kids are 17 and 14. I have a son, eldest son, and a daughter. And I think right from and also another sort of clear directive on my parenting, I think, is also I was an incredibly delinquent teenager. I was the teenager you never ever wanted to have. And so that kind of shaped my view of how to parent. And I guess I kind of have, you know, through the experiences that me and the children have had, we have become very, very close. We have bumped and moved, and we've moved countries and houses, and there's been very, very difficult times. And throughout that time is that the constant for us is the relationship that we have. And I'm fortunate that we get on very well. We love spending time together, even though they're teenagers and I'm their mother, but really value the time that we spend together. And I think I really, I guess because my children are sort of, you know, 17, nearly leaving home, I'm just like every second counts that I spend with them, and I really appreciate that. And you know, I think parenting comes down to being as trust. I always say to my children, trust, and being direct and being open, and you know, being honest and supportive, as well as protecting them, of course. But being open and trust has been the kind of key drivers for my decision making as a parent.
Wow, I love that so much. Love that. Oh, I'm looking forward to your parenting class. Just putting that out there. What else would you like to share about your work or career, or about Friday?
Well, I think that not wanting to sort of focus on Friday, I'd love to talk about my life more, and I'm sure we'll get another opportunity, and sort of the stages of my career, and how I guess communication And I think the theme through the whole thing is I've always been fascinated by human behavior and how people behave when they respond to different things. And I guess that's where the kind of influence and how do you perform better? I was always fascinated that you could perform better in certain situations. And I look back, I think, that's been a thread. I've had lots of different experiences, different, careers, different sectors and industries. But the thread has always been people and relationships and influence and communication in various different ways. And actually, what I love about what I do right now is it's all the experience that I have had in various different jobs and industries that I've worked in have all kind of funneled down into what I offer in terms of getting people to fast track their career. And what we're going to go through on Friday is really about walking out of that process feeling confident in who you are and what you do. Everyone is amazing. Everyone has value that they can add to the table, and everyone that goes through this process. In fact, I was going through this process on Sunday with a client, which was yesterday, with a client, and afterwards she said to me, I never realized how much value I really do bring to the table. And she said that not in an arrogant way, but now normally I'm so in the work that I do. What I hadn't noticed is all the benefit and value I bring to the company and the other people that I work with, and the process and what the business is about, and sort of taking that outward look really, I think, helps give people confidence. And it means that they walk in with confidence because they've gone through the process. And it's not that you couldn't go through the process on your own, but actually having a formula and a process that has been sort of iterated over time means that you get through it and you come out the other end feeling like, yeah, I am confident and I have authority in this bit of expertise that I'm in, and actually I'm going to go out and take some of my opportunities. Because when someone says to me, what do you do? Or someone says, why should we give you that promotion? Or someone says, why should I bring you in on this project? You've got a really, really powerful answer to that question. And that is why you can take the opportunities when they're in front of you and you grab them with both hands. And that is awesome, right?
I love that. What's coming to me now is what is one thing that a client has told you or shared with you that was totally unexpected, like a win they had or an outcome that occurred, and for you it was truly unexpected?
Well, what comes to mind, and just to everyone who's watching this, that is a question. These aren't pre-rehearsed questions, right? It's what's coming into my head. And it reminds me of a client I worked with earlier this year, and he was responsible for 100 people. That was he was senior. He was responsible for his team was 100 people, and he was like the layer. So he wasn't the kind of C-suite. He wasn't the senior leadership team, but he was like the one below. And he had originally come to me because he had tried to get a promotion and had a really bad experience in that. When he sat in front of, there was 6 people interviewing him to get up to the next level, and he'd had a really bad experience. And he came along and he said, do you think I can help? And again, he's like, here are all the things that I do. And I'm like, you're awesome. Of course I can help you. And we went through this process similar to what we're going to go through on Friday. And he went into that next iteration of rounds of promotional conversations, and he got it. He got the job, which is amazing, and I love it because it's such a good outcome, and people are like, awesome, I've got the job, I've got the promotion, got the pay rise, gone to the next level, whatever that is for them. And what was funny is, so he's gone through all that process, and he's running this massive team, and he says to me, it's sort of earlier on in the process, I hate it when I'm in a meeting and he's in these sort of big meetings and there's like 20 people around the table, and he says, I'm okay if I introduce myself earlier on, but if it goes around the whole table and by the time it gets around to me, I'm like dribbling rubbish and I hate it and I'm sort of tongue-tied and I can't speak properly. And I sort of said to him, are you serious? You do this job, you manage all these people, awesome at managing people, awesome at doing the job, but being put in those high pressure meetings, in those positions where you have to talk about yourself fundamentally, he, absolutely hated it. And so very, part of this pitch process that we're going to go through on Friday is, how do you introduce yourself? How do you introduce yourself in a way that people are like, oh, that's interesting, I want to find out more. So we went through this process, and of course he then had in his pocket, I was talking about having stuff in your pocket, this, whenever you have to introduce yourself, I'm going to say da 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 da, and we sort of laughed it off and joked. And then sort of all the sessions that we did, like following that, I'd say to him, no, come on, tell me, your introduction was awesome, right? There's no more of that. Oh my God, what am I going to say? And like, you got it, you nailed it, and you had that authority in that meeting. And he's like, yeah, I've got it. And what's great is, and I think, again, it's great for me to be part of the process, is when he came into that, going through those steps, he was just, I don't know where my career is going, I've lost momentum, blah, blah, blah. And he came out of that process because people are really empowered with what they can add and what they can do. And he comes out of that process going, I'm going for the senior leadership team. That's my next step. And that's kind of awesome to help facilitate that process. And he's gone from, oh, I don't want to introduce myself around the meeting table, to I'm going for the senior leadership team. That's my goal.
Wow.
So pretty awesome.
I'm clapping for that guy.
Yeah, me too. I am as well.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Here's the next question. It's come to me while I heard that tale. Very inspired. I'm very inspired. Next question is, what story from your client has impacted you the most? So this would have been a client that they went through a transformation, they got something, and they shared a story with you that moved you so much from what they were able to create.
I think it would be, I guess, slight twist to that the answer to your question would be, I'm actually working with someone at the moment, and I've got a terrible memory, so what is current is on my mind, right? And actually, I helped her just before we went into the pandemic. She was interviewing to get a job at Google, and I helped her do exactly what we're going to do on Friday, and reposition how she talked about her, how she put herself forward, how she communicated what her strengths and experience was. So then we went into the pandemic, and actually she didn't end up everything kind of went up in smoke, didn't it, in the pandemic? And she's actually come back to me recently and she works in the sustainability industry. Okay, so she works in tech, but in sustainability. And when I ask her what do you, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Her sort of where she's coming in is, again, I'm competent at what I want, but I want to be able to communicate upwards, and I want to communicate more effectively, have more influence, have more authority, all of that. Now, lots of people want to do that because they want to get up another level. They want to get to the C-suite, or they want to get to senior manager positions. Whereas she is like, I don't want to go up. She's like a global head. I don't want to go up to the C-suite. That's not what I want to do, because there's that environment. I don't want to be in that environment all the time, because it's different to what I'm doing. But actually what these tools give me, the ability to communicate and influence other people, means that I can really live my purpose, right? My purpose is to help companies get to be net zero, be sustainable, operate in a sustainable way. And I can't give enough of myself, I can't add enough value if I can't communicate effectively. I can only get so far. And we were saying, in a way, people in those kind of roles, in the ESG, CSR roles, have been in the last 5 years, people who everyone doesn't really want to pay any attention to. But because of the way the world is changing, her job for this sort of global company is becoming, front and center. So you've got to have confidence and authority to really grab that position and perform at your absolute best. Go for what you care about, what what you're living for. And I found that really inspiring, because there's so much meaning to the role that she has, and all I can see is the better she can communicate and influence in an outward way, in an upwards way, the more impact she's going to have, and it will impact all of us globally. And that, I think, was very inspiring recently, and I kind of got really excited. I was like, awesome,
Wow.
really. So again, it kind of comes back to this, the tools and strategies that really unlock your potential and enable you to take those opportunities. And it's just inspiring to be around.
Wow. I'm inspired. Very, very inspired. How about we chat a little bit about, say, what the future looks like, or what you would like the future to look like in your, say, in your industry? What's your vision? Say your next year, your 10-year vision.
Well, I think that's Carnival in Rio, isn't it? Isn't that what we were saying before the call?
That's true. Yeah. So besides the carnival. Yeah. So having Carnival in Rio be like an annual retreat for companies to use that environment to then work on their 5-year plan, 10-year plan.
Yeah. So to answer you seriously, as well as going to Rio, it's a serious 5-year plan. I think I guess as business grows, and I think one of the things that I've been really focused on this year is really fine-tuning the what it is that my company can do to help facilitate other people, right? And really laser focusing in on what that is, so that people can really get those results as easily and as quickly as possible. We all come from a world where we're just so busy all the time. We've never got time to do anything. And especially if you're working in sort of corporate world, everything is forever busy. And I think this year it's really I've simplified the process and the experience that you have to get those results. And I guess when I look forwards, I want to be able to interact with more people and do it at more scale. And having, when I look at people who I work with, I sit there and I think, it'd be amazing to get that person and that person and that person together. So I think when I look at that kind of 5-year plan, I don't know if I've got 10 years is a bit too far ahead for me at my age. I like to think in 3 to 5 years, but when I look at that, I think about scale and mastermind and bringing like-minded people together to really have that impact and that purpose. Going back to my example before, being able to really help facilitate that. So I think that growth for the company is really about scaling up and bringing like-minded people together and helping them really go for what they want and have as much impact as they can in their careers. Because as I said to you before we got on this call, my driver in my sort of my value system is time. Time is such a factor for me. I make decisions based on, am I using my time well? Am I, have I used my time well? Am I doing as much as I can? That's how I have, and for various reasons in my younger age, that's my value driver. And so it's all about having as much impact and influencing others to help facilitate what they do in their careers too.
Wow. I'm beyond inspired. And what came to mind while you're sharing was also, say a couple of weeks ago, we were chatting and you mentioned that you're preparing to go on a celebration with some friends.
Yeah.
That's a good laugh. I like that laugh. And to me, it showed to me how much you value friendships and long-term friendships, because I think you shared something about it's been, how they were long-term, they were friends for a long time. And I was very inspired by that. Can you share a little bit about your values when it comes to friendships? Because I think it might be something that your clients are getting, and they may or may not be noticing. But when you spoke about time freedom, or time, and then I quickly went to the freedom, because that's my my highest value in life is freedom.
Yeah.
I thought, what, it would be great for you to share a little bit about what you've created for yourself that gives them the time freedom to then go on certain holidays or vacation or celebrations with people you love most.
I mean, I think I totally agree. I think time freedom is the magic formula, isn't it? Having the ability to spend time with the people that you want to spend time with. And with my friends, I thought you were going to, so what were you doing for the 3 or 4 day party you went to? Was with a very, very long-term friend of mine, and going back and seeing lots of people, some people I hadn't seen for 10 years. And I think when it comes to my friends, it takes me time to really connect with people at a very deep level. But if I look at I have a handful of very close friends, and I'm incredibly loyal to them, and I will do anything for them. And when I think about, it's great to have friends who that you haven't spoken to for like 10 years or whatever. And they'd ring you up and they'd say, "Hey, either Laura, I'm having this party. You should fly over to wherever it is, Lisbon, whatever." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm there." Or maybe the call isn't so fun, and it's like, I'm in trouble, can you come and help me? There are people on this planet in various different countries in the world that if I got that call, I'd be on a plane, and vice versa. And I think, again, I think you get to an age where you really appreciate time, freedom, company, and being around, and remembering not to get so hung up about life and work and things like that, and valuing the time you spend. And I think you're the same. I've lived abroad for 10 years, and therefore I think by default you start connecting with lots of people around the world rather than sort of the city that you live in, you know. So I have lots of friends all around the world, and you don't see them very often because they might be in Australia or they might be in America, or, you know, so the time you spend with them is really, really special. And so I hope, like for me, I might not spend that much time with all my friends, but the time I spend with them is awesome. And I want to connect with them and have a great experience with them. And I think on from a professional perspective, you know, I don't go into my relationships with clients thinking I want to be your friend. I don't go into relationship like that. And I guess, but I can get on with anyone from any background, from any situation. And that, again, that stems from my delinquent childhood, where I was kind of mixing with lots of different people. And so my eyes are wide open, and I love meeting people and hearing about what they're doing and how they're doing it. And I'm fascinated by differences that we have culturally, that, you know, lie our different lives. And I really like interacting and meeting new people all the time. So I guess in summary, my friend, I'm very long-term friends, very loyal friends, but also, you know, great meeting new people and hearing what, and I think as you evolve, don't you, things change, you know, your life changes, you have different things. And I have some friends I do certain things with, some friends I go up mountains with, some friends I go to parties for 4 days and come back on the 5th day feeling pretty rough. And some friends I train with, some friends I work with, some friends I do business with. So it's just nice to have an eclectic mix of people that you interact with, from my perspective.
Well, thanks for sharing. There was a moment there in your sharing that I got a little bit emotional when you said that, you know, if I get that call, I'm on a plane.
Yeah.
And I feel like I owe a couple of friends a couple of calls after you and I in this, because it touched me in a special spot where the importance of why I do what I do, which is mainly to spend time with the people we love. And one of the reasons I believe sometimes people in their careers, whether they own their own business or they work with a company, may not be fulfilled, is because they're not spending enough time with the people they love most. And how reframing career, reframing life purpose, or reframing their daily work so they can love their work, love the people they spend time with, and perhaps some of those people becoming friends, could be one of the keys to feeling fulfilled. It's how
I think also we, you know, I mean, we run our own businesses. Okay, so we have, in theory, we have more flexibility. We certainly have more flexibility. I'd say I work pretty hard. I'm a bit obsessive compulsive with my work. But I think when you're working in a company, in a corporation, and again, when you're at the people that I work with, your life can be consumed by work. Your life can be consumed by the stress and the pressure and the anxiety, and you can wake up in the morning and like you're working 24/7. The weekends, you're still on emails, you're still responding to stuff, and you don't have that clear-cut time in your week. And I think and you and I come at this from a different perspective, but we can't give anyone more time, right? We can't give anyone more time, but I certainly help my clients and the people I work with to use their time more effectively. So productivity, how to use your time, be more productive. And also, I think the other key thing, certainly when I'm working with people who are very senior, who have so much going on, is shifting your mindset so that you're not getting stressed about all the things that you might be getting stressed about. And it kind of comes back to that confidence. It comes back with clarity. It comes back to the decision. It comes back to all those things. So we can't give them any more days of the week, but we can help them experience their life in a better way. And the sort of compounding effect of that means that if you can work things out, and it may take a few months to do it, but if you can sort of iterate that through and you have that clarity, you can make that time to be with your friends and family. You can make enjoy. And it comes back to that whole thing. As a single parent, I was running a global account. I had 2 small children at the time, and I would come home from work. I had a live-in nanny, and I'd come home from work and I would sit outside my front door for like 15 minutes because I just needed to get rid of the stress of the day, just take a breath. It was all full on before I walked in, and I had these 2 kids going, "Hi, mommy," blah, 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 blah. And it's super stressful. And I couldn't, as a parent, I couldn't be there most of the time. I had to go and earn the money. I had to pay the rent. I had to do all of that stuff. I couldn't be there all the time. And I occasionally would be like, a bit of parental guilt and all of that. But I kind of reframed that for me, that helped me get through that. And I still do today, is when I'm with them, I'm right with them. I'm engaged, I'm interested. It might only be for an hour of the day. It might be, Saturday afternoon, but when I'm with them, I'm present. So I might not be with them 80% of their time, but that 20% I'm with them, I'm really with them. And we get into habits, don't we, of like looking at our phone, watching TV, and your children are saying, "Hey, do you want to hear what I did at school today?" And you're kind of like, yeah, just let me do it, and it's just being present with your family, with your kids, with your friends, and listening to what they're really saying, and being able to respond in a way. And I think you can't buy more time, but you can make your time better when you're with the people that you love and with the people you want to be with.
Wow. Mic drop. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I've been using the same word a lot, which is inspired. And me and my girlfriend this past weekend, we were playing a game on how to not use the same word in the same day. So we were like looking up like dictionary.com or going into and playing that game. So what's a synonym for inspired? I am moved. I am transformed. I am thrilled, happy. So thanks for sharing. I guess we can start closing this conversation. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
No, I think I feel like I've got a bit of a time bend here, and I'm not sure whether we've been talking for like 10 hours or whether it's like 10 minutes. It could be either. But I think I think that one of the purposes of having this conversation, apart from it being great to speak with you, is to, if people are watching this, is to come on those Friday sessions. Those sessions, I'm doing the one this week. It's about putting together your personal pitch and being able to sort of articulate your strengths and your experience. And then every week there's going to be a demonstration, sharing some valuable content, some experience, so that people can come to those Friday sessions and really start experiencing what we're about, rather than just having to take our word for it. And I think there's huge value in that. So just to finish on, see you on Friday, and I look forward to doing that session.
Yes, looking forward to it as well. So everyone listening, watching, there'll be links below, and share, like, comment. And one of the things I like to say is, if you've been inspired by something you've heard or watched today, not only write it down, but also pick up the phone and share it with someone. So it could be something like, I just heard Laura and Fernando talk about ... and here's an idea I have, or this is what I'm committed to. So share that. And if you share with one person, is great. If you share with two, is more amazing. If you share with 3 people, that is like, you are almost like at the magic level of alchemy, that you are transforming thoughts into reality. That happens in the sharing of your new discovery. So share what it is that you inspired from this conversation, and be register below for the Zoom on Friday, where you can be as a guest watching Laura perform her magic. And so you too can fast track your career and have time freedom. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. It's been great to speak to you. And I'm going to go and share, but I think I might wait until tomorrow morning when everyone else is up.
Got it. You don't want to wake up your best friends, and you're such a great friend. I'm looking forward to us celebrating together and partying together.
Me too. Great. Thank you so much for having me. Look forward to Friday, and connecting with everyone who's watching this. I look forward to meeting everyone. So
same here.
See you soon.
All right. See you soon. And everyone, have a great week, and bye for now.
Bye.